Welcome to Lesson 15 by Chess Achieves. In this lesson, we'll continue our understanding of openings and talk about controlling space. In our last lesson, we reviewed developing knights towards the center, developing bishops towards the center, trying to control center space. And you're often going to do that by moving your king and queen file pawns first to allow your pieces to develop. Again, those 5 key principles we reviewed last time were control the center, knights before bishops, don't get your queen out too early, try to connect your rooks. As we continue our understanding of controlling space, you want to try to manipulate your pieces in a way that controls more of the squares on your opponent's side of the board. For example, the white army starts on ranks 1 and 2, but their side of the board would be ranks 1 through 4. They want to try to control more of the space on black's side of the board, ranks 5 through 8. It's important when you develop your pieces, you want to try to control more space. Generally, the army that controls more space has better odds of winning. Doesn't mean you're going to win, you still win the game by checkmate, but it's important that you try to control space. Let's continue looking at our control of space with a game that's played through. The white army has followed the 5 principles of trying to control the center, knights before bishops, castling its king to safety. The black army has shown an uncoordinated attack. It's developing pieces almost randomly. It's the black army's turn in this particular case. So if we look at the potential for black army's turn, we see that it has a number of choices, but most of them are limited to the black side of the board, that is controlling very little space on white side of the board, presenting very few threats for the white army so it can continue its development with ease. If we shift now and look at the white army's opportunities when the white army's turn returns, we see the white army has several pieces that can press onto black side of the board. Again, those are ranks 5 through 8. And it has plenty of opportunities. The more opportunities you have, the better you'll be at chess. Let's return to our earlier segment that we had in our lessons, where we talk about placement of pieces and controlling space. Let's just review. If a bishop is on the board and it's in a corner, it only has the opportunity to go to 7 squares. Yet if it is moved to the center of the board, it has an opportunity to control 13 squares. Again, as you make decisions about your pieces, you want to try to move to squares that help you control more space on the board. Clearly, bishops want to be more towards the center of the board. In our next example, we'll look at the knight. Again, if the knight is on the edge of the board, it has fewer opportunities than if it's towards the middle of the board. In the middle of the board, it can control 8 different squares, or be putting pressure on 8 different squares. Whereas in a very corner, it can only control 2. On the previous square, it could control 3. But knights want to be more towards the center of the board. Queens also favor a center position. From the edge of the board, where there's pieces in the queen's way, it can't control as many squares as if it can from the middle of the board with nothing obstructing its view. The queen should be played more towards the center to help control more space. Rooks have the unique ability to fight from the edge of the board as well as from the center. Again, rooks can control 14 squares if no one's in its way when it's on the edge, but it can also control 14 squares even towards the middle of the board. So it's important to keep in mind, rooks can fight from far away. They're a long-range weapon and have just as much strength as they do fighting up close, so it can be very beneficial to use rooks on the edge of the board to help manipulate space. Rooks also like to be on open files. Open files are situations where pawns of both color are missing in the same file. In this example, the white army has connected its rooks together on the open D file. The D file does not have any pawns and creates a very powerful position for the white army. After connecting your rooks together on an open file, it can be very powerful to attack what they call the 7th rank, or the deadly 7th rank, with a rook. This is the file where the pawns start the game on for your opponent, and putting your rook on this file can be an extremely powerful combination. When seeking targets for your rook, if an open file is not available, the next best thing would be a partially open file. That's a situation where the pawn of your color is no longer in the file, but your opponent's pawn is. Such as the example shown here. The white pawn is missing from the D file, the rook's piled up together on the D file to attack the pawn on D5. So as a recap again of the last two lessons, you want to try to control center space. You start by using your E file and D file pawns. These are the pawns in front of the king and the queen. Try to develop your knights before bishops towards the center. Try to get your knight to C3, your knight to F3. Try to develop your bishops towards the center to control more space on your opponent's side of the board. The more space you control on their side of the board, the more restricted they'll be, the fewer options they have. The less options, the greater the likelihood you have of winning the game. Try to castle your king to safety. Get your rooks on open files. Again, open files are where both pawns are missing. Both the white pawn and the black pawn are missing in the same file. Try to get your rooks down to the 7th rank, the opposite file where the pawns start on for your opponent, to attack what they call the deadly 7th rank. Try not to move the same piece twice in the opening unless you have to, unless you're going to lose material. Otherwise, be focusing on development at the beginning of the game and controlling center space. Good luck, players.